Welcome to our posts. Today. We will see stories of r/Pettyrevenge. She wanted the house. My ex cheated on me and emptied our joint bank accounts before serving me with the divorce papers. So I signed the house over to her, made sure that the turnover was stated in the divorce decree as a settlement in lieu of alimony, and sent a copy of the divorce decree signed by the judge to the mortgage lender along with a signed and notarized quitclaim on the house, which absolved me of any further responsibility for maintaining the mortgage payments on a house that I no longer owned and in which I no longer lived. All perfectly legal. Less than a year later, she suddenly realizes that she was solely responsible for maintaining the mortgage payments when the lender foreclosed on the house. I know it's not very petty, but it was sweet, sweet revenge. Edit August 20th, 2024. For my detractors, the bottom line is this. Neither the lender nor any collection agents ever came after me, and my credit rating stayed in the lower 700s. I must have done something right. Next story. I've taken my brother's cemetery plots. They won't know until one of them dies. My mother never shared the details of her will with me or anyone in the family. When she died, we all learned she had made me executor of her will. My two brothers were very upset that their little sister, who has an MBA and a solid family life, was picked over them. Neither of them finished college, and one is an invalid who hasn't left his house in years. Mom left her house to the two brothers with the instructions that I sell the house valued at around $250,000 and divide the money between them. All her cash was to be divided between the heirs. Her other property was a small vacation home where her and my dead sister's ashes would be scattered. She left it to me and my dead sister's children. 30 or so years earlier, one of the brothers had told her he wanted to build his own cabin, so she deeded him an adjoining lot. When she died, it was still an empty lot. He convinced one of my nieces to sell him her share of the cabin for $1 and not tell any of the heirs before the paperwork was signed. The only way I found out was because he posted on Facebook, "I'm now a proud partial owner of my family's mountain cabin. According to my lawyer, no one can keep me out of it." We aren't friends on Facebook, but some mutual relatives are, and they alerted me to what had happened. In the state we live in, even a fractional ownership allows the partial owners to enter the property anytime without restrictions. There were some very ugly emails between him and my niece when she tried to get the property back, and he admitted he did this out of spite to hurt me and make sure my family and I didn't get to enjoy the property. Brother #2 had emailed my niece several times and told her he was so proud of her for selling to her uncle and he'd never seen his brother so happy. Mom's will was written so that the estate would retain ownership of all property, including real estate, until the probate process was completed. Brother didn't understand that and thought he would have immediate ownership. His lawyer didn't read the will very well and thought the same thing. The only way to get the share of the cabin away from him was for my niece to refuse her share of the inheritance. Even with that, it cost the $600,000 estate, including the house, she left to them roughly $30,000 in attorney fees to fight this. But we won and the cabin is safe. I don't know how much he had to pay his lawyers, but it was a lot of money. The situation drug on for months. The property Mom had given him sits directly across from the cabin. Out of spite and anger, he clear-cut the property Mom had given him and brought in over 100 tons of gravel, so the wooded area now looks like a gravel parking lot. This is directly next to the place where Mom and sister's ashes are scattered. The brothers had asked for the 3 burial plots next to my dad. They adored and idolized him. Mom is scattered at the cabin and she won't be using them. So I gave them the cemetery plot paperwork. But before probate ended, I had the plots put in my name, and they are legally mine now. The paperwork they have is worthless, but they don't know it. I didn't tell the brothers, and they won't find out until one of them dies, and they can't be buried next to Dad. Honestly, I know Dad wouldn't have approved of what they did. He loved Mom, and would be upset her ashes are scattered next to a gravel-covered lot, not the woods she loved. I haven't told them what I've done. Screw them. They wasted money from her estate and made Mom's resting place look horrible. They don't deserve to be buried next to Dad. Next story. My cheating girlfriend's awkward date. This took place when I 29M was 19 years old. I had just left Navy boot camp and entered a school. For some background on the story, and for those of you who aren't aware, boot camp teaches you to be a good sailor, while a school teaches you to do the specific job you'll be doing while in the Navy. I had been there for some time when I decided to go to a little movie theater on base and meet a girl who I'll call Cheater. Cheater and I hit it off pretty well, and we started going out. Over a month into the relationship, we make plans to meet up the next day for lunch after morning classes at one of the on-base restaurants. I make it into the eatery and find Cheater already there, eating with another man. To paint a picture, they weren't just eating but leaning very close to one another, holding hands. It turns out that not only did she forget our plans, but she also made the same plans with an entirely different guy. Seeing this, I decided to get my food, walk up all sweetly to them, and join them for lunch. The look on Cheater's face when she saw me was one of mortification. I introduced myself as a good friend of Cheater and made small talk, asked questions about the two of them, and anything else that made Cheater as unconfutable as possible before politely excusing myself so I could head for my afternoon classes. Although I didn't outright rat her out, I made sure to lay it on thick and watched her squirm as her other boyfriend began to piece it all together over the course of our meal. It's sufficient to say things didn't last between me and Cheater. Next story. Drowning in Nutella. A few years ago, I 35M was in a long-distance relationship and ended up moving states to move in with her 36F at her suggestion. Straight away, it was terrible. A disaster. It was so weird because the second I arrived, she completely changed from the person I'd been dating in the past, including previously dating in the same city. Suddenly, every little thing I did was extremely annoying for her, and she'd call me out on it. One example was I have a fondness for Nutella, which is a chocolate hazelnut spread. Every night I'd have a single spoonful from her big jar in her cupboard. This became an issue. She started going on and on about how I was eating all her Nutella. For days she kept raising it. It was particularly weird because we were both in good jobs, money wasn't an issue, and I was buying most of the groceries. So next time I was at the store, I bought a huge jar of it for myself. However, this in itself became an issue. Why was I buying stuff she already had? Didn't I realize she didn't have unlimited kitchen cupboard space? How stupid and insensitive could I be? By this stage, about 3 weeks in, I realized I had to pull the plug and get out of there. I booked a flight which was 2 days away. Enough time for Operation Nutella. I'd noticed the discount store had it on sale, so I bought a bunch. And by a bunch, I mean 3 cases, 72 big jars. On the final day, I waited till she was out and spent an hour hiding these Nutella jars everywhere. Bathroom vanity, sock drawer, in her car, in her garden shed, inside empty saucepans. Some people might think, oh, awesome Nutella for life, or just give it away. But she had the kind of OCD where I knew it would really bother her. Anyway, I moved back to my home state. We were no longer speaking. A few weeks went by. Then out of the blue, I got a message. F your Nutella and F you. It made my day. Next story. Uncle's divorce from cheating wife. Uncle back in the 90s had 2 restored cars. 1969 Firebird, his first and most cherished car, and a 1969 Chevelle Blue with white racing stripes. Both cars show ready. His wife was caught cheating, so a divorce happened. When he got his agreement to sign, she demanded that she wanted the Camaro. Well, they didn't own a Camaro. Yet, he drove that hot rod Chevelle to a local grocery store parking lot and waited. Finally, some young high school kid pulled up and my uncle made his year. Traded that kid even for his beat-up Camaro, went home and signed the divorce papers. After the judge signed off and the divorce was finalized, they met in the parking lot and she was given her Camaro. She was trying to F him out of his prized and cherished car, but thankfully due to her thinking it was a Camaro, he easily kept it. He still has the Firebird. I'd say this qualifies because he just threw away a crap ton of cash he invested in that Chevelle, especially in today's market, just to match her pettiness. He expected her to want the Chevelle. Next story. Try to cheat me on my trip. Enjoy circling the city for free. This happened just now when I called a Bolt driver to pick up my family for a ride to the local lake. As some background info, the app became very successful where I live because the cars are cleaner and the drivers usually friendlier than those of the taxi cab companies. Some taxi drivers caught on and switched companies believing they could continue their shady ways there, taking detours to increase the cost, having personal stuff in the cargo bay, smoking while driving. You get the gist of it. To the story, my family wanted to go swimming in the lake, which is located on the other side of our city. My sister wanted to take the bus, but I suggested a Bolt because the bus station has no shade and there are some constructions being done to the road leading to us. My husband and son obviously agree because neither like the bus and the car would be faster. So I order a driver. The app says it'll take him about 6 minutes because he needs to finish another ride. Nothing uncommon, no worries. My son is exited, hubby and sis are optimistic, so we chat away. After about 2 minutes my son asks to watch the progress, which he often does, and suddenly wonders why the driver is further away. I take a look and, indeed, the driver went the opposite direction passing a store. We surmise that there might have been a construction site too, or that he wanted to bypass ours and continue chatting. After another 2 minutes I check my phone and notice him circling a kindergarten. Maybe he wanted to take a shortcut and noticed he couldn't get through. We continue our conversation. After some more minutes I see the driver getting to a crossing which might lead our way. Finally, the city must be full of construction sites today. I relax a little, but to my surprise he continues ahead, towards the train station, not us. At this point I realize that he doesn't intend to pick us up. He intends for me to get bored and cancel the ride, in which case he gets a fee anyway. I start fuming. I write him a message stating that I noticed him having difficulties getting to my location and that I do not mind him canceling so that someone else might come. The driver doesn't reply but gets on the next main street. Possible directions: one way towards us, the train station a little further away, a big hardware store very far away. He chooses the hardware store. I try to call him but he doesn't answer. At this point I've had enough. The driver already wasted about 11 minutes of our time. The bus was long gone by now, too. My husband calls another car on his phone while I write a complaint to the app, including a screenshot of the driver and his car, and decide to wait. This driver is not going to drive me anywhere, but I'll be damned if I cancel now. I will let him get to the corner of my street and then cancel. After all, two can play this game. My husband's car gets to us in less than 5 minutes. In all this time, my driver continues to take the scenic route. After a total of 16 minutes, he's got enough and cancels himself. I am very happy to have ruined 16 minutes of this man's life after he tried to cheat me for my money. Thanks God I wasn't in a rush, otherwise I might have been forced to pay the cancellation fee. TL Doctor. A cab driver tried to screw me over by wasting my money, but because I wasn't in a rush, I wasted his time. Next story. Won't let me go to the bathroom? Okay, this isn't my story, but one a friend told me about in high school. At our district schools, you would be given a planner with a certain amount of bathroom passes you could have for each pass per semester. Well, one day, my friend, I'll call Sarah, had to pee really, really bad. A complete emergency and class is only halfway over. So Sarah raises her hand and asks to go to the bathroom. But she's out of bathroom passes, so the teacher tells her no. Sarah, please? It's an emergency. I really have to go. My friend said I could use one of theirs. Teach, absolutely not. You should have gone in between classes. You'll have to wait. Sarah, I really can't wait. Please, can I go? Teach, no. End of discussion. So, Sarah tries her best to hold it. 5 minutes pass, and she simply cannot and begs the teacher again to let her go. He refuses once again. So Sarah, in all her petty glory, says, "If you don't let me go, I will pee right here at this desk. I can't hold it. Please." But of course, the teacher doesn't believe her and denies her again. Sarah proceeds to stare him straight in the face and piss her pants without moving an inch. Teacher finally lets her go to the bathroom and to go change her clothes. Class ends early and the teacher has to clean it all up. He never denied a student ever again. Next story. Eat your stale bread. My husband 30M and I 28F have only been married for 3.5 months, but we've lived together in the past. I'm constantly picking up and cleaning up while he waits until the clutter gets to be too much. For that reason, I usually leave his desk and other personal spaces alone and tend to other areas while letting him do as he sees fit with his things and areas. The only thing that bothers me is when he doesn't clean up after himself in the kitchen. He'll leave cereal boxes completely open sauce bottles on the counter, all of that. Most of the time, we have to toss the things he leaves out because our kitchen gets so hot we don't have central air and heat. Yesterday, he made a sandwich and left a newly bought pack of bread opened on the table. I brought it to him and made him put it up properly. However, last night I noticed he did it again. This time, I didn't do anything. I waited until this morning, when I knew it would be stale and inedible, and brought it to him again, telling him I'd be buying my own bread and he'd better finish that pack and not touch mine. After arguing with me that it was still edible, and realizing it actually wasn't after squeezing the pack of bread himself, he replied, "Well, I don't want to eat that." I just shrugged my shoulders and reiterated that my bread will not be touched. His face was enough for my satisfaction. Update: he ran to the store for our BBQ today and grabbed a bread box too. Also, you all are way too serious. This was written lightheartedly and with his knowledge. Shout out to the few who understood that. I'm gonna go make sure the newly bought bread is in the bread box now. Next story. Revenge at the Children's Museum. I 39M took my daughters 5 and 2 to the local children's museum. They had an exhibit where you could type in a message and it would translate into 5 or 6 different languages and speak it back like a native speaker of that language. My kids are playing with this and pretending they are working on the input keyboard like mommy and daddy at work and laughing at the funny sounds coming from this little computer thing. When this 10-ish-year-old butthead with a shaved head and sticky hands comes up and starts pushing buttons on the display. I ask him politely to wait. We are almost done and he can have it soon. He took that as an invitation to push my girl's hands out of the way so he could type better. I asked him if he could share so everyone can enjoy it. He ignored me and squeezed into the 1-inch gap in front of the stool my daughter was using to reach the display. I told the kid we were here first and he wasn't being very nice, while hitting the clear button to erase everything he just typed. He let out a caveman-like grunt and started typing again. I hit the clear button again and erased everything. It was a juvenile test of wills after that. I just kept tapping the clear button so he couldn't type anything. Nothing he was putting in was getting said by the translator. I kept tapping the clear button as he kept typing. He started swatting at my hand and arm and whimpering, "Stop it." I kept tapping the clear button. There was no way this scrawny 50 lb when soaking wet kid was getting my Popeye-esque forearms to budge from that clear button. I kept telling the clear button. After what was a cross between a grunt and a cry crossed the lips of this little Play-Doh and ham sandwich smelling turd, I leaned in close and whispered to him, "Sucks when people don't want to share, doesn't it?" He left to go bother some other kid or wear shoes while jumping on someone else's couch or add a cha-cha-cha to the birthday song or whatever it is he did for fun. My girls got to continue pretending to type at work and make the machine say funny phrases. Next story. If you're not giving birth, you're staying at work. Not mine, but a friend's. For context, this happened in mainland China. My friend, Sue fake name, F, had a job with a toxic boss F. The boss would always find ways to keep her after work hours for trivial matters, and it made my friend upset. The last straw was when her boss told her, "You're not giving birth right now, right? Then you're perfectly fine staying behind to finish this extra work." Her husband found out and was livid. He didn't do anything though, until Sue switched jobs. Cue petty revenge. Her husband went on a rampage and used the former boss's phone number to sign up for dozens of abortion clinic services. Apparently, the clinics blew up the former boss's phone for 3 days in a row, maybe more, I wouldn't know. Edit. Sue was not pregnant while working under the boss. I hope you guys like this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share, and subscribe the channel R posts.